So what's going on, guys? DIY Dan here again, and this is another episode of Outdoor Living. In this video, I'm going to be refurbishing a Charbroil 4-burner propane grill that has a stove on the side of it. I ended up getting this grill for free. Somebody had it set out on the street. Now, the only reason I got this grill is because I wanted a second grill. We've been using a rotisserie quite often on the grill, and on our Weber, I didn't like having to pull the grill plates off every time we wanted to use a rotisserie. So this way, we've got one permanently set up for grilling and the other one permanently set up for a rotisserie. After looking at this grill, I thought all I would need to do was buy the burners because I wasn't planning on reusing the grates since we were just going to be using it for a rotisserie. So I'd figure I'd only have about $27 into it. However, those burners were a little bit different and I did have to return those and get a different set. And the only way I could find the actual proper burners was to get the new cast iron grates with it. So I did pay about $70 for that, but it's still over a $300 grill that I've got $70 into it, and it's going to serve the purpose that I got it for. So let's get to it. So it just so turns out that doing some research on Amazon for this video that I actually think I found the burners, heat shields, and crossover tubes without the grates for around 30 bucks. So that is an option for you if you want to try that. So right here, I'm just disassembling this grill. I removed the warmer rack, which just lifts off, and then removed the 2 cast iron grill plates. Then I removed the heat shields by lifting them up in the back and sliding them out of the front of the grill. The burners are all attached to each other, but they do the same thing. They lift up from the back and then slide out of the front. The only one you got to be careful of is the one with the igniter on it. Now, there are Phillips head screws that should be in these burners, and you can try and remove those. But these were so rusted out that that wasn't going to happen. So I just kind of removed them all at the same time. The one with the igniter on it, I tried removing that screw as well, but it was so rusted out that that was never going to happen. Then I tried using my grinder with a cutoff wheel on it to basically grind a slot that I could use a flathead screwdriver on it because the Phillips was so stripped out, but that wasn't working either. So then I basically just ground the head of that screw completely off without damaging the bracket that holds the igniter and popped it off of there. If you're having to do anything like I'm doing here with creating sparks, make sure you remove the propane bottle underneath the grill and move it far away from where you are creating those sparks. That's pretty much all the disassembly that I needed to do for this refurbish. So then basically I gave it a good bath using my electric pressure washer. I went on Amazon and ordered up these burners for a Charbroil. However, I didn't pay close enough attention, and the burners were a little different than what was on there, and they did not fit in the grill correctly, even though I did try. The burners that were originally in this grill were flattened out on the one side, and the ones that I ended up getting were round and would not fit inside the hole. Now, when I ordered this off of Amazon, I did check all my measurements as far as length and width that were on the Amazon pages. I just missed the fact that that end was different on the burner. Now, we were able to return these to Amazon with no extra charge, and we did find the correct kit on Amazon to order that did have the right shape on the end of the burners. The only difference is I could not find this kit without getting the new cast iron grates as well, which upped the cost to $65 instead of $25. To make this purchase on Amazon, I just needed to make some measurements of the grill plates themselves, length and width. Then I measured the length and width of the heat shields. Now, I did forget to hit record when I was doing this initially with the old parts. The burners and the crossover tubes are much easier to measure once they are out of the grill during disassembly. And all you need for the burners and the crossover tubes is pretty much to measure the length and compare the way they look to what you find on the Amazon pages, along with comparing all those measurements. Once matching up all my parts and making sure everything was the same length and the same shape this time, I was able to install those. It's a good idea to take a picture of your old burners and the way they were in the grill, just so you have that for a reference for making sure you install the new burners correctly. There's a couple things on these burners that easily identify the correct direction. One is that the flattened out area where it sits on the dimple on the bracket in the back, if it was flipped over, it would slide off of the bracket. You also have the single screw hole where the crossover tubes attach to the top of the burner is another way to tell as well. Once you verify that you have the correct side of the burner facing up, you're going to slide it into the front of the grill. Right here, you'll notice that the cutout is the shape of the burner. And then right in the center of that cutout, there is a tube that has an orifice in it where the propane comes out. Basically, you're just going to slide that burner over that tube in that cutout. Once you line up the burner on the front side and slide it into place, then you just set the back side of the burner over the little dimple on the bracket, and that's what holds that in place. Once lining them up in the front and sliding them in, there's no detent or anything that's going to tell you when to stop. You basically know when to stop when the hole in the burner at the back side lines up with that dimple and it just sets in place. Now, because this Charbroil grill only has an igniter on one of the burners, there are crossover tubes that go between each burner that transfers the flame from the second burner to the rest of the burners to ignite them. These crossover tubes are directional. There is a slotted side and that goes towards the front of the grill. I'm assuming that slot is so you can kind of visually see the flame transferring from the one burner to the next. And then the solid side of the crossover tube goes to the rear because it doesn't really matter if you can see it on that side, obviously. So right here, I'm just setting those crossover tubes in place, solid side to the back and the slotted side to the front, and setting the screws in place that came in the kit. I like to use my drill to tighten these down because I can set the torque setting so I don't over tighten them and strip them out. The igniter attaches to the second burner from the right hand side if you're standing in front of it, and you don't have to worry about putting a certain burner in that location because all of the burners have the holes in them in order to anchor the igniter. Once all the crossover tubes were in, then it was time to go ahead and try the burners to make sure everything worked correctly. This was when I was trying it immediately after I installed them, but with the grill in the sunlight, you can't really see the flames. Now, I didn't realize this until I was actually editing and putting this video together, so I went ahead and took the heat shields back off and took another video. So I've used this grill a handful of times since we refurbished it, and it's been working good. One of the coolest things we've done is with that rotisserie on, we actually cooked 3 full chickens on it for a big family dinner, and they came out amazing. So it has worked and it's serving the purpose that I got it for. Now, because this only has one igniter for a 4 burner, you do have to start it on that second one from the right, and then you turn on the other flow control valves in order to transfer that flame through the crossover tubes to the other burners. Once verifying that all the burners were working correctly, all that's left to do is slide the heat shields into the front and then set them on the little peg in the back of the grill. Now, at this point, I was done because I did not want the grill racks on the grill, nor did I want the warmer rack on there because its primary purpose is going to be used for a rotisserie. However, if your primary purpose is using it for a grill, instead of the rotisserie, you would just set the grill racks back in place. They basically just sit into a tray in the grill, and then go ahead and set your warmer rack back in place. It hooks in the back and then sits on the side paneling of the grill. The other common failure with a grill is the electric igniter stopped working. Usually all that's wrong with those electric igniters is the battery goes bad. So you just unscrew the cap and then pay attention to the way that battery comes out. Usually the flat side of the battery goes in and the part with the dimple on it is the positive, which goes to the outside. Now, Weber grills are a little differently. They usually go the reverse of that for whatever reason, but you can just slide a new battery into there and then give it a try. If it still doesn't work, it is a very easy swap out, and I'll put a video at the end of this you can click on to help you out, and they are pretty cheap on Amazon to purchase. The other main reason I took the time to pick up this grill off the street and refurbish it is because it did have the side stove, and I've always wanted a grill with a stove on it as well. That way you can put some steaks and some baked potatoes wrapped in foil with some butter and bacon wrapped around them on the grill, and then throw some veggies in a pot right to the side and cook your whole meal outside. So that's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it and it gave you some good information. If so, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. The whole concept of my channel is to give you guys the most information in the least amount of time as possible so I don't waste your time. I hope to see you next time. Have a good one. Later.